Do you ever feel like there are two different people living inside of you? There's the person you aspire to be. Thoughtful, kind, the one who is building a better life. And then there's the other one, the one who, in a moment of weakness or impulse, makes a choice that threatens to undo everything, and even themselves. This internal war isn't a sign that you are a failure. It's a sign that you are human. And there is no more honest, profound, or ultimately hopeful story about this war than the life of Israel's greatest king, David. To understand David, we must first look at the hero, the golden boy, the young shepherd, the last of his brothers, chosen by God against all odds. He is pure potential. He soothes the tormented King Saul with his harp, a picture of healing and artistry. Then he stands before the giant, Goliath. This isn't just a battle. It's an archetypal story of faith overcoming impossible force. He rejects the king's heavy, conventional armor, a powerful metaphor for rejecting systems that don't fit our true nature. He faces the giant with nothing but a sling and a deep, intuitive trust. And he wins. He becomes a hero to the people, a brilliant military leader, a charismatic figure destined for greatness. This is the David we see in the light. This is his public persona, the hero we want to admire. But psychology, particularly the work of Carl Jung, teaches us a crucial lesson. For every bright light of consciousness, there is a corresponding shadow. The shadow isn't necessarily evil. It is simply everything we have repressed, ignored, or refused to acknowledge about ourselves. It's the parts of us we deem unacceptable. And the more brilliant the light, the darker the shadow it casts. Let's look at David's strengths through this lens. His courage has a shadow of ruthlessness. His passionate nature, which allows him to write beautiful psalms, has a shadow of uncontrolled desire. His political genius has a shadow of cunning and manipulation. To understand this paradox, perhaps we need a metaphor from the world of physics or music. Imagine a single thick string on a cello. When a master draws a bow across it with just the right pressure and speed, it produces a deep, noble, resonant note, a sound that can fill a cathedral and stir the soul. This is David the psalmist, David the worshiper, David the victorious king. But that very same string, if you pluck it violently, if you scrape it with the wrong part of the bow, will produce a jarring, ugly, dissonant screech, a sound that makes you cringe. This is David the adulterer, David the murderer. The potential for both beautiful music and jarring noise exists in the same string. It is not a different instrument. The greatness and the capacity for catastrophe are woven together. The story of David's life is the story of this single, resonant string. For years, his music is beautiful. He unites a nation. He establishes a capital. He brings the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. He is at the absolute peak of his power, his security, his success. And it is precisely here, at the moment of his greatest external strength, that his shadow makes its move. This is the story of Bathsheba. It begins, as many of our own failings do, in a moment of idleness and complacency. The kings have gone out to war, but David, for the first time, stays behind in Jerusalem. He has nothing to strive for, no external enemies to fight. And so, the battle moves inward. From his rooftop, he sees a beautiful woman bathing. and the shadow of his immense power and unchecked desire asserts itself. He, the king, can have anything he wants. He sends for her. He sleeps with her. This is not a simple act of lust. It is a catastrophic abuse of power. A man using his authority to satisfy an impulse, heedless of the consequences for the woman, for her husband Uriah, one of his most loyal soldiers, and for himself. When Bathsheba becomes pregnant, the shadow deepens. The cover-up begins. The initial impulse of desire now metastasizes into cold, calculated deception. He recalls Uriah from the battlefield, hoping he will sleep with his wife and the child will be presumed his. But Uriah's integrity only highlights David's lack of it. He refuses to go home while his comrades are in danger. He is more honorable than his king. And this, for David, is an intolerable mirror. It forces him to escalate. He sends Uriah back to the front lines with a sealed letter, his own death sentence. A letter instructing the commander to place Uriah in the fiercest part of the battle, and then withdraw, leaving him to be killed. The beautiful music has stopped. The string is producing a horrifying screech. The hero has become a monster, hiding behind his power. Many of us have our own, smaller versions of this story. A moment of impulse leads to a lie. The lie requires a bigger lie. The cover-up becomes more consuming than the original mistake. We find ourselves doing things we never thought we were capable of, all to protect our public persona. If you recognize that pattern, if you've ever felt that spiral, you are not alone. That too is part of this deeply human story. For almost a year, it seems David has gotten away with it. The baby is born. The world moves on. But the unacknowledged shadow festers. And then, the prophet Nathan comes to him. What follows is one of the most brilliant acts of psychological intervention ever recorded. Nathan doesn't accuse the king directly. That would be suicide. Instead, he tells him a story, a parable about a rich man with many flocks, who steals the one beloved lamb of a poor man to feed a guest. David's sense of justice, still intact, is enraged. He condemns the rich man, declaring he deserves to die. And in that moment, Nathan holds up the mirror. You are the man. The defenses crumble. The persona shatters. David is forced to see himself, not as the heroic king, but as the selfish, rich man in the story. He is confronted by his own shadow, and it breaks him. If you find this way of exploring the human condition meaningful, please consider liking this video. It tells us that these deep, honest conversations are what you value. David's response is not an excuse. It is a simple, devastating confession. I have sinned against the Lord. This is the turning point. This is where David's true greatness, a different kind of greatness, begins to emerge. Not the greatness of a flawless hero, but the greatness of a broken man willing to confront the totality of who he is. His process of healing, of integrating this shadow, is laid bare for us in the Psalms of repentance. Like the famous Psalm 51, "Have mercy on me, O God," he writes. "Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me." This is not a man trying to forget. This is a man choosing to remember, to own the darkness, and to plead for transformation. He asks God to create in me a clean heart. He understands that this is not something he can do for himself. The part of him that broke the world cannot be the same part that fixes it. This is the essence of shadow work. It's not about destroying the darkness. It's about bringing it into the light of consciousness, owning it, and allowing a higher power or deeper self to integrate it into a new, more honest, and more compassionate whole. And this is the ultimate lesson of David's life. True spiritual and psychological maturity isn't about being perfect. It's not about never making a mistake or never having a dark impulse. It is about what you do after you have failed. It is about the courage to face your own reflection after you have acted like the monster. It's about understanding that the same string that can produce the ugliest noise can also, after being retuned by honesty and humility, once again produce the most beautiful music. So the story of David leaves us with a profound question, not about kings and battles, but about the territory of our own hearts. What is the unacknowledged shadow in your own life? The ambition, the desire, the resentment, the fear that you pretend isn't there. And what might happen if, instead of running from it, you found the courage to simply look at it, to name it, and to bring it into the light? What new, more honest, and more whole version of you is waiting on the other side of that difficult, courageous conversation?